What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of my Marathon Training 2 series. This week we're going to be covering May 25th to May 31st and all of the runs that I had this week. Let's go ahead and jump over to the calendar and we'll take a look at it. So taking a look at the calendar, we have Monday, which was a rest day. Moving on to Tuesday, I had a 5-mile interval run, so 6 sections of 2-minute fasts with a 2-minute jogging recovery in between. And the way I did this was I kind of broke it up into more about a longer warm-up into the intervals. So I ran about 2 miles at a normal pace before alternating 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off of about between an 8.5 and a 9.5 minute pace, and then dropping back to a 10.5 to 11 minute pace on recovery. This went really well, and actually it helped me settle into a faster pace, and even after I finished, I felt like I could have gone even farther, and that was an exciting first run for this week, and I was really proud of my results from that. As you can see, 5 miles in 9 minutes 41 seconds per mile average. As I mentioned, this was an interval, so that average pace is both faster than the slow parts and slower than the fast parts. So that really excited me to see that when it was over. And it took me about 48.5 minutes total to knock out those 5 miles. Then moving on to Thursday, after another rest day on Wednesday, we have just a 5-mile quote-unquote easy run with I've now started to consider a maximum pace of 11.5 minutes per mile. For this one, I did kind of the same. I didn't do the same thing as the Tuesday run. I didn't run in intervals, but I allowed myself to have a nice long run up for a warm up and then kind of settled into a moderately fast pace, at least for me, to finish it up and kind of push myself a little more. So again, you can see 5 miles, 9 minutes and 46 seconds per mile, which is a little more true to the actual pace for the entire run, in just under 49 minutes. This was another one that I'm really proud of, and it kind of shows that, what I'm doing is working, and it's kind of keeping me motivated to continue going and continuing to push myself even further. Then moving on, after a rest day on Friday, which kind of thankfully, after these fast runs, I think my body's kind of started to catch up to me. A nice 3-mile easy run. I took this one fairly easily, even though it says 9.5 minutes per mile. I never felt like I was pushing myself too hard, and so I kind of just settled into a natural pace and went as I went, and that was kind of what it was. So 3 miles in 9 minutes and 32 seconds per mile, in 28 minutes and 40 seconds total. Not really a whole lot to say about that one. It was just a nice, beautiful morning, nice and cool, allowed me to run a little faster and push myself a little more on a natural pace rather than a focused, fast pace. So on the last run here on the 31st, which was Sunday, I was supposed to run 12 miles easy at a target pace of 11.5 per mile. And here's where this is my first yellow of the month, essentially, from an actual run. And I wanted to talk a little more about this one because this one is a bit of a special case. So on Saturday night of the 30th was a day across the country where a lot of people were protesting the death of George Floyd and the actions of a certain few police officers in Minneapolis. Even here in San Antonio, Saturday was a day of protest into Saturday night, which turned a little more destructive downtown. For those who don't know, my girlfriend and I live about 1.5 miles from the main center of downtown where a lot of this was happening. And so that kind of led to a bit of an uneasy night being so close. And then I think that kind of translated over into Sunday. On Saturday night, we were staying up to keep tabs on everything that was going on, and that led to going to bed late, which led to waking up late and getting a bit of a rushed start for Sunday. And even then, it felt a little wrong with everything that was going on in this country to focus so much on such a silly thing, just as going for a long run, training for a marathon, that in the ultimate scheme of things doesn't necessarily matter. I decided to do it anyway, and I think the entire time, all I was thinking about is everything that was happening and how silly it was. So I ended up actually cutting it a little short. It was supposed to be 12 miles. I only made it a little over 10 and almost 10 and a half. And even then I had to push myself to even go that far. I think at about the 4.5 to 5 mile mark, I had almost convinced myself just to run home and stop, call it a week, and kind of take the day and rest some time to fully process everything that was going on and kind of move on to next week and just leave this one as it is. I decided to push on anyway, but once my run hit the downtown area where a lot of the activities from Saturday night were taking place, that kind of really extra took it out of me, and I decided to cut it there and just head home. So that's why that one shows up as a yellow, not necessarily from the run itself, but just from everything that's going on. Some final stats for that ended up being 10.42 miles at 11 minutes and 33 seconds per mile in just over 2 hours. I'm not looking into this one too much. A lot of bigger things are happening than just this one result on a run that ultimately doesn't matter. And there's more things happening than this, and I'm choosing not to let this one get me down. I did mark it as a yellow, but in my head, it's fine. I'm not worried about this one. So moving on to our weekly stats. This week in these 4 runs, I ran 23.42 miles, an average pace of just over 10 minutes at 10 minutes and 8 seconds per mile, and a total running time of 4 hours, 6 minutes, and 46 minutes. Looking at the grand scheme of things for this month, these are a personal bests and total miles, pace, and total time spent running. And it felt like it. There was a reason for it. Earlier in the week, my first 3 runs went about as good as any 3 runs I've had so far put together. And then Sunday, while I didn't complete the run, it's still the farthest I've run yet, as well as I still hit the target pace that it set for me. So in the end, it is a win. And at this point, we can actually, since it is the end of the month, we can actually move down to our monthly totals board. So this is the entire stats collective for the entire month of May. So just going ahead and jumping on into it. In May, I ran a total of 89.62 miles. I spent over 15 and a half hours running with an average pace for the month of 10 minutes and 14 seconds per mile and an average of just under 18 miles per week, a little bit of backloaded if you actually look at the week over week. And if you look at my previous video covering my marathon training up to this point, you can kind of see what those weeks looked like. I'll put a card up in the corner, and you can check that out. And then the average run length per run is just under 5 miles. I was surprised by that number, and again, I think that number may be a little backloaded. These averages are essentially just exactly what they are. They're averages. And so my longer runs towards the end of the month kind of offset the shorter runs at the beginning of the month. And so that number is a little less exciting. I like to focus more on the total miles ran and the average pace for the month to kind of really get a gist of the results of the month. And then the last four rows there, the number of greens, yellows, and reds, that's just a place for me to get a quantitative number associated with the number of my opinions on each of the runs. So for the month, out of 18 total runs of this month, I had 16 that were green and 2 that were yellow, 1 being Sunday that we just talked about, as well as a Tuesday run earlier in the month where my hip actually was slightly injured in the Sunday run before, so I decided to take that day off to rest it. And then that last row, we have how did the month go, and overall, it was a green month. It was an absolutely very tremendous month, and if we actually zoom out a little bit and can kind of put the entire month into one screen, we have it was a very successful month. The entirety, we ran 18 times. And this is definitely the best month that I've had so far, bar none. And kind of giving it, I guess we can kind of give a peek ahead to June. Here's what we have for June. Let me zoom in a little bit. So looking ahead to June, it looks fairly similar to kind of how it's been going. As we can see, we start to push our mileage up a bit more, as well as mixing in more interval training on the beginning of the weeks with some more moderate runs. And then the weekends, the Sunday runs, I'm actually more excited for. I really am looking forward to pushing my total mileage up, especially on these runs, because these are the runs that actually help get you around the marathon. These longer runs get your body used to running for that long, and that is something that is invaluable. Well, there we have it, guys. That actually wraps up episode 2 of my Marathon Training 2 series, where we took a look at May 25th to May 31st, as well as the monthly totals for the entire month of May, and kind of the numbers and qualitative stuff that kind of went on with that, as well as my opinions on everything that went on. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and I'm actually going to ask you guys to leave a comment down below on what parts of this that you enjoyed and what parts you think could be made better. I'm trying to grow with these because I know that staring at an Excel document full of statistics can't be the most entertaining thing in the world. So leave your thoughts down below, and I'm going to try and make these as good as I can. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with these videos as I release them every week. I want to make this a new staple of my channel because I think having this information out there can be very useful, not only for myself, for anyone who is looking to follow a training plan and doesn't know where to start, or just wants to follow someone and have a dialogue on their own training results. I would love to be able to have that interaction with whoever's watching this. So that wraps it up for this episode. Look forward to next Monday with episode 3 in the first week of June. I know I'm looking forward to running it, and I hope you're looking forward to hearing about it. I'll see you guys next week.